Hi everyone. Thank you for finding time and listening to my pilot episode of my new podcast and journey into fraud prevention. The podcast is not going to be about discussing fraud trends or new types of scams. I believe we have many different podcasts where you can hear all about trends from directors of the industry. My focus just have casual talk with my guests, friends, ex-colleagues. The main question is to explore how did they end up in fraud prevention and what keeps them there. I believe fraud prevention is a very unique area and it's not popular career path as other like IT, sales or marketing. Maybe I'm able to motivate someone to join the fraud prevention path in the end. Or if you are trying to figure out where to start your career, it will be your choice. Let me introduce my first guest, Sergey, who is product manager in Booking.com. We used to work together in Booking.com as well. He is an amazing colleague, a remarkable fraud specialist and also a great person. Sergey has grown from fraud analyst to product manager. He learned a lot during his journey and he has something to share with us today. I found his story very interesting and I want to share it with you. Let's begin. Поехали. Hi Serge, how are you doing?
Hey, Ivan. Yeah, all good. Thanks. How are you?
Super well, and especially weather outside very enjoyable for July.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again for your time. You are a brave innovator. So you decide to join the pilot episode of podcast. It's mean a lot for me. Thank you once again.
Sure, my pleasure.
Actually, I knew you for about 5 years already, maybe six, quite a long time ago. I remember my first day in Booking. You sit next to me and I ask it a lot questions, a lot actually basic questions, and interrupt you every minute, a second, with more and more questions that arrive as waterfall. It was a great time for me
Yeah.
at least. Not sure about you.
Oh, it was good. It was
Yeah.
nice.
But enough memories. I stopped talking and I'm going to ask my first question. The first question is fraud prevention. What is fraud prevention for you?
Um, well, I think it's for me, for prevention is kind of an exciting industry, an exciting place to work at. Uh, yeah, I guess what makes it different, at least for me, and what makes it exciting for me is it's basically there's always someone on the other side, like against you. So it's they trying to trick you, you trying to trick them, or you trying to catch them. Um, so it kind of makes it exciting. Yeah.
Sounds really interesting for me. I'm more than agree with you. To catch someone, it's something that I hope everyone in fraud prevention industry are aim for. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of the stories when people change sides and decide to go into another side of the table or dark side. But
Yeah.
different story, yeah. And what is your journey to fraud prevention? How you become a fraud prevention specialist?
Yeah, so I think actually from what I talked to some of our colleagues, it seems like some of them are quite similar and not very traditional to let's say comparing to other industries. So it doesn't work like I graduate from the fraud prevention university and I go and do fraud prevention, because there's no fraud prevention program in any universities. Um, yeah, so in my case, I actually studied international business, and I had a course mate who was working for an operations center of Western Union in Vilnius, which was pretty new back then. And yeah, I was like, oh wow, that's a big name. It's probably cool to work for such a big name for a big company. And I asked them, hey, can you refer me? Like, do you have any jobs? How did you get like a job there? And he said he was working in basically a department which needed different languages, and he spoke like besides English, he spoke I think two or three extra languages which they needed. So he said, hey, I can try to refer you. Like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, what do you do? And he said, well, I work with fraud prevention. Do you want to work with fraud prevention? I'm like, yeah, sure. And yeah, he basically referred me. Uh, to be honest, the first time I read the job article, I even had to use like Google Translate to like, okay, what does this word mean? Because like these fraud, scam, and all the other ones that I didn't use in my day to day, basically world back then. But yeah, so that's how it started. Basically, the very first job was speaking on the phone with people who are sending money to like risky destinations, and if you call them and they tell you that they're trying to get an inheritance from a prince in Nigeria, you're trying to convince them that nah, that's not the case and that you shouldn't do that because that's a scam.
Yeah. You know, I always want to be like this Prince of Nigeria because I know people send it a lot money of them, and every time when it's article about like Prince of Nigeria, then never get them. I don't know where's actually money going, but it's quite interesting why everyone's so cautious about sending money for someone like that.
Yeah.
I know maybe they believe if they send money over to Prince, they're gonna be related to royal family and get some titles. You know, send £10 or 10 USD to Prince of Nigeria and become, I don't know, king of something.
Yeah, I think people like they they want to believe in little miracles that hey, maybe that's my chance. Maybe that's how I get rich.
Most I agree with you. And how long do you like in the fraud prevention industry?
Yeah, so basically since then that was my entry point into the fraud prevention space. I was still back at university on my fourth course, fourth grade. And up till now it's probably about 10 years now. Yeah, quite a lot of time.
Oh my God, time fly.
Yeah.
And how is your current position collaborates what you did in the Western Union with the first position?
Sorry, how does it relate or
How it's like collaborates between two positions? Like if you compare both positions between like Western Union and what you do now, is it any connection or it's totally different positions?
yeah, I think it's so in throughout the 10 years that I worked in this industry, it was becoming like yeah, from purely talking on the phone to people, it was becoming slightly more and more technical. So and then I moved to another role that was yeah, basically very rarely talking on the phone and mostly doing analysis, where I had to learn like SQL and other stuff like that. And then yeah, then slowly I briefly worked at PayPal and then booking and booking like the technicality let's say went up even more like with PySpark and Python. So I'm actually working as a product manager now trying to build the tools that are being used by like either machine learning tools or some tools that are being used by other like people who try to catch fraud. So I'd say it's a good connection. I'm happy I had this experience because I know kind of the pain points of the people who do it firsthand. So it kind of helps in my day to day job, I'd say.
Sounds exciting, and especially right now you're working with machine learning. That's everyone cautious about. Everyone when they see a mail somewhere,
Yeah,
their expectation that you're supposed to know everything.
yeah,
I
I
believe
know
you
AI.
you knew it, but you know some people expectation even higher. Do you have any, let's call them dream industries where you want to work as a fraud prevention specialist?
Hmm. To be honest, I don't know if it's yeah, specifically for fraud prevention, but I think this is just my personal kind of dream industry as a gamer. Like I never worked in a gaming industry, and I do like to play games like on PlayStation or on PC. So yeah, I think I'd be interested to work in gaming fraud prevention at some point.
So it's opportunity. You know the team. How this team calling one of the most popular gaming company right now. It's Fnatic, if I'm not mistaken, the Swedish company. They're
Mm.
really famous for Counter Strike and Dota. So maybe
Mm,
they're
mm.
looking someone to working with machine learning. I don't know. It's up to them. Maybe some of them listen this podcast and realize, oh, you know, we need to hire Sergey.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. And for 10 years in industry, I believe you're going to like the next questions. What do you like in fraud prevention, or you might dislike it?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably what I mentioned earlier. Or what I like is that there's always someone kind of against you, and you put some controls, and they're trying to find a way to. to basically find a way around it. And you're like, okay, what other hole did we not patch? And then they find that hole, and you're like, okay, that's the one. So we're going to patch this as well. So I think it's that. And I think this is the other thing, which is maybe less happening in my current role, but was happening in my previous roles quite a lot, is these kind of bigger things happen, like incidents or something like that, where they discover that loophole and they like exploit it a lot. It's kind of a like and dislike situation. It's like, yeah, it's a bit stressful, so you dislike it, but it's also kind of exciting, so you kind of like it. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a difficult situation with that one.
The stress is everything.
Yeah.
I believe people from I know invest banking who selling some things for billions is more stressful position rather than fraud prevention.
Oh yeah.
However, yeah, maybe some big companies I know facing with the huge troubles if someone working as a head, I don't know, in let's say Mastercard or Visa, I believe they have plenty of stress.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the most stressful job in the world, but yeah, happens.
And if you're able to change anything in this industry, where you aim?
I think it's yeah, it's a good question. I think the only thing that I see not working so well is like sharing I guess data sharing, yeah, like or intel sharing between companies, because like for fraudsters you can, yeah, they would if they find like a loophole in some company, or they find a method how they can defraud people, or yeah, they would create a manual and they would sell it, or they would share it for free, or yeah, basically information sharing for them is very easy, and they're acting kind of as a unified front against all the companies. And most of the companies, because they're, yeah, they're official businesses and they're regulated, they cannot share this information that easy to basically to be as efficient on that front as the fraudsters. I don't know how to fix it. It's a difficult problem, but hey, you didn't ask how would I do it. You would ask what would I change. So I think I would change that. Like if we would be, able to do like a magical thing, like we fix this information sharing with companies, I would fix that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I did ask too much deep diving about how you're going to resolve it and sell it as a startup idea at the end. No, yeah, I understand your point. I'm facing with the same problem as well. Doesn't matter where I worked or where I'm working right now. If I'm able to share a bit more what I know with companies in the same industry, it's going to
Yeah.
be help and prevent a lot. However, my main down points why I don't think it's going to even work, because let's say if someone compromises this channel where we share information, that means you
Yeah.
not only have access to one company, you have access for whole industry.
Yeah, very difficult. Like also that, also like all the data privacy concerns. Also, a lot of the companies are competitors, so maybe they wouldn't want to share too much. Yeah, lots of nuances on this topic.
What else to add? Yeah, maybe one day someone resolves this problem. I don't think it happened. Maybe it is. We see a lot of innovation happens worldwide, AI, for example, but maybe someone find an opportunity to fix fraud prevention communication and something that everyone can use without downgrades or without kind of afraid that
Yeah,
something happens.
yeah, at some point.
Yeah. And more serious question for a second. Have you ever commit fraud?
No, I don't think so. Um, even thinking, yeah, I had like in the youth, I know kids who like stole I don't know, like a chocolate from a shop, but I don't think I had any such experience. So cannot cannot share too much on this. Sorry.
But I know you live in a different country right now, so my expectation maybe you stole some chocolates when you was a kid, and that's right now drive you to move to another country.
No, yeah, not yeah. I don't really have any exciting stories about this.
I'm expecting some big story here, but luckily it so happens, and we move forward. So you already mentioned that you work it with different kind of tools. You're using phone in your first position. After that, you move for more technical things. You start using SQL, Python, etc., etc. But what skills do you believe are useful and which are not in career path when you work with fraud prevention?
Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, that's a very good question because indeed, as we mentioned earlier, there's no really a set like degree or course in this field, so it's very much yeah, it differs like what companies ask. But I think the absolute must is basically if it's a company that wants to hire like a professional, fraud prevention professional, um, that means they probably have enough sales or orders to justify hiring that person. That means they have a lot of data. So, like for looking through that data, it's useful to know at least SQL, like as a minimum. Like ideally, like for a great fraud professional, like PySpark or Python or something like that, to be able to yeah basically manipulate that data through those kind of languages. Um, I mean, for the very, very basic, like I guess Excel would do. But if it's a company that has a lot of data, you would find lots of issues with just using Excel. And I think for the rest, because it's, yeah, you need to always find how fraudsters are exploiting your system. You also need to think of solutions. So I think like curiosity is also very important in fraud prevention. Being open minded, being ready to like, okay, how they did that. Let's explore. Let's think about it. Yeah, so I think some technical skills like Excel, SQL, even better if Python, curiosity, and yeah, the right mindset. I'd say these are the ones.
For me, sounds like new institution for fraud prevention, and these three things you need to pass to start to your university.
Yeah, I think it's still a very new and changing industry. So maybe at some point we'll have some kind of official degree, but
We hear from you that one of your dream industries is gaming. However, let's say you are tired of fraud prevention, and you decide to change industry today. Where are you going?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, I think since I moved to being a product manager, it kind of slightly broadened my horizons because before as a fraud analyst, I was mostly like, okay, this is yeah, I do this analysis and this is what I like. I explored opportunities of moving somewhere else as an analyst, but I just found that those industries like where you have to count clicks are not just interesting at all. But as a product manager, I think there's maybe more opportunities of changing to something that is more interesting for me. Hmm. Yeah, I would be interested in, I don't know, building some backend infrastructure stuff that is complex, where you need to understand lots of things, make sure that people, yeah, talk the same language and understand what they mean. I think I like this kind of complexity. I mean, I still like fraud prevention industry. I'm not looking to change, but if I would have to, it would probably be some building some cool, complex backend stuff for like an online product.
Sounds super exciting for me. So, if any day you decide to change it and start to build something, please invite me. I'm really honored to join you. It's going to be amazing.
Sure.
And do you believe it's going to be like fraud industry in 10 years from now?
That is a good question. I think, yeah, like we see like more and more regulations are adding stuff like PSD2 and those kind of things that are like designed to solve fraud prevention at least partially, but I don't think it's really solving it because yeah, fraudsters are finding new and new ways. So I think maybe fraud prevention will be, or sorry, not fraud prevention, but fraud maybe will just migrate from one area to another. But I think it will still be like a case, like a problem in 10 years. I don't know whether it's still going to be a big problem for payment fraud or for other kinds of fraud, but it's definitely going to be there somewhere.
I hope so. Otherwise, we don't have any incomes in the end.
Yeah, very true.
Maybe it's going to be code differently, but I agree with you. 10 years from now, I believe even like 100 years from now, it's going to be something that's close to fraud industry. It might
Yeah.
go differently, or maybe some merge happens because we have a lot of collaboration with, I know, cybersecurity, for example.
Yeah, could be the
Maybe it's
case.
gonna call something, I know, combination of two words for the cyber fraud or fraud cyber.
Yeah. And we already see sometimes like for like account takeovers, they're using like kind of cyber e techniques to actually do to defraud people later. So yeah, could be the case that it will have an even closer relationship in the future.
Hope so. It's gonna help everyone, not only cyber but also fraud guys who
Yeah.
work on the same table and sometimes so shy to ask questions. And actually, I have one last question. Would you recommend fraud prevention as career path for someone who looking to change their career or looking for a first job? Maybe you can give some bits of advice to these people.
Um yeah, I think if you're really if well, I guess what we discussed earlier excites you and is interesting for you, I think I definitely recommend it. I think there's because it's still new and still growing and changing, there's lots of opportunities. And there's no such thing as like, okay, I'm too late or something like that. And I actually also seen like even within like our teams, like when we worked together, there were people coming from non-fraud background, but who were like jumping on it and learning very fast and being very successful at it. So I think there's still lots of opportunities, and yeah, I would definitely recommend this field if someone is exploring.
Sounds more than exciting for me. I hope if someone right now listening to this pilot episode and consider fraud prevention as a path, please listen once again what the Sergey just said. I believe I'm 100% agree with him that is it something exciting and it is really dynamic area. And if you're looking
Yeah.
something that's always changed, I believe that's one of the best options on the market. Actually, I don't have any other questions, and I would say thank you, Serge. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoy conversation with you.
Likewise, it was great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and we'll stop here. And I call these lovely words that I wanna say since I was a kid. I say cut. Thank you once again for listening to my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and waiting for our next episode. I would be honored if you could share the podcast with your friends or colleagues. See you next episode. Пока-пока.